Hello, I'm Carl, and today I would like to talk a bit about politics. So, um, 2 days ago, or might be a few more now, it was a couple of days ago anyway, the government announced its new tier system. So, for those who don't know, in England there was the tier 1, 2, 3 system, which medium was like, there's no worry, no COVID symptoms, nothing to worry about. Tier 2 was basically some restrictions. You have to, do a bubble, support bubble with one other household, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Tier 3 was basically a lockdown. Um, but they've got the new tier system announced. So I'm actually reading. I've got in front of me my laptop, which I'm on the government website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the new tier system one by one, or one, two, three, and go through each bit, explaining what each bit means. So tier 1, which is medium alert. In tier 1, you must not socialise in groups larger than 6 people, indoors or outdoors, other than where legal exemptions apply. This is called the rule of 6. So they actually had this in the previous restrictions. So the rule of 6 is obviously, like it says, you're not to meet up with any more than 6 people. There has been a number of people breaking this rule of 6, but yeah, no more than rule of 6 at any one time. Again, this is the medium alert. Businesses and venues can remain open in COVID secure manner other than those which remain closed by law, such as nightclubs. Okay, so what it's basically saying is shops can open, restaurants can open, pubs open, but again, the 10 p.m. rule will be in place, which is actually later on, so I'll come on to that. Hospitality businesses selling food or drink for compulsion on their premises are required to provide table service only for premises that serve alcohol. So obviously, you're not allowed to go to the bar, they have to come to you, pretty self-explanatory. Close between 11 p.m. and 5 p.m. Hospitality venues in airports, ports, on transport services, motorway service areas are exempt. So, sorry, I had a drink not before this. So again, it's pretty self-explanatory. Unless you are a hospitality business that's at an airport, port, or on a transport service such as train, ferry, whatever, or on a motorway service area, you are having to remain closed between 11 p.m. and 5 p.m. Pretty self-explanatory. And the final point for the hospitality businesses: stop taking orders after 10 p.m. So again, at 10 p.m, this will probably be most applied to bars and restaurants mainly. Again, so at 10 p.m, I would say that would probably be last orders. So, you go to a bar, they might say 10 minutes before closing, last orders, quick, get your drinks in. So obviously after 10 p.m, no more. So they might say, well, if you're in the queue, maybe it'll be up to that venue's discretion, but yeah, no more orders after 10 p.m. Pretty self-explanatory. Hospitality businesses and venues selling food and drink for compulsory off the premises can continue to do so after 9 p.m, as long as this is through delivery service, click or collect, or drive-through. So again, this is pretty self-explanatory. So let's take a takeaway, for example. You can't actually go into the shop, venue, whatever, to pick up this your meal, but you can click and collect, so you can ring ahead, or go for an app or something and pick it up. Again, drive-throughs, so it's self-explanatory. You still use drive-through, and of course delivery service. So normal takeaways using apps like Just Eat or Uber Eats or FoodHub, or there might be more, but they're the ones I know of. I don't really use them a lot. So the next one says early closure in brackets 11 p.m. applies to casinos, cinemas, theatres, concert halls, museums, bowling alleys, amusement arcades, fun fairs, theme parks, adventure parks and activity and bingo halls. Cinemas, theatres and concert halls can stay open beyond 11 p.m. in order to conclude performances that start before 10 p.m. So again, unless you are so we'll go through one. Casinos, cinemas, theatres, concert halls, etc. as I've gone through, all must close by 11 p.m. Of course, if you are in a concert hall or a theatre or something, as long as you've got in there before 10 p.m, then you can stay until 11. This, of course, means that timings in places like cinemas will have to bear that in mind. So, pretty self-explanatory. And the next thing, bear in mind, this is all tier 1, medium alert. Public attendance at outdoor and indoor events, in brackets performance and shows, is permitted, limited to whichever is lower, 50% capacity or either 4,000 people or 1,000 people indoors. Okay, so it sort of says what it, it sort of says it on the tin really. You can only have 50% of your capacity of what you would normally have. So if you've got an outdoor activity or something that's 10,000 people, you're only allowed 4,000 people. But it says between either 4,000 or 1,000, so you get the idea. So next thing, public attendance at spectator sports and businesses events can resume inside and outside, subject to the social contact rules and limited to whichever is lower, 50% capacity or over 4,000 people outdoors or 1,000 people indoors. So again, spectator sport, this may be tennis or golf or bowling. The normal sort of spectator sport, like football, for example. Next one, places of worship remain open. So before I just move on to that, on that point, so in the first lockdown, all places of worship were made to close with immediate effect. But you must not, so moving on, so places of worship remain open, but you must not attend or socialise in groups more than 6 while there, unless a legal exemption applies. And so again, this is applying the rule of 6 in places of worship. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, pretty self-explanatory. Weddings and funerals can go ahead with restrictions on numbers of attendees. 15 people can attend wedding ceremonies and receptions. 30 people can attend funeral ceremonies, and 15 people can attend linked commemorative events. So obviously this is putting a restriction on wedding and funerals. Obviously, again, I can't remember whether the funerals were stopped, but weddings were certainly stopped during the first lockdown. Because obviously people still die, people still want to, show their respect. I had a family member that died in August. We weren't in lockdown, but we were still in some restrictions. And I was going out of one area of restrictions into another area of restrictions. Thankfully, the area of restrictions where I was going to were tier 1 to tier 1. I was just coming from an area with higher cases, but not that many cases at all, with way under 20. I think it was only about 4 or 5 at the time, really quite small. And of course, we were having to stick to a limited number of people attending, but thankfully we didn't actually get near that number. I didn't lose my family member to COVID. They actually just died of natural events, like so they died of a heart attack. So next point, organised outdoor sport, physical activities and exercise classes can continue. Fairly self-explanatory. PE can carry on. Might be some people going, yahoo! But for others who don't, sorry, again, pretty self-explanatory. Next point, organised indoor sport, physical activity and exercise classes can continue to take place if the rule of 6 is followed. There are exemptions for indoor disability sport, sport for educational purposes and supervised sport, and physical activity for under 18s, which can take place with larger groups mixing. So what I would take from this is that the rule of 6 has to be followed unless you're in school or something else applying the exemptions. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Next point. If you live in a tier 1 area and travel to an area in a higher tier, you should follow the rules for that area while you are there. Avoid travel to or overnight stays in a tier 3 areas, otherwise where necessary, such as for work, education, or youth services, to receive medical treatment, or because caring responsibilities. You can travel through a tier 3 area as part of a longer journey. So again, if we go back to the example earlier, when I, back in August, had to go to a funeral. So let's say I'm going into a higher tier or a lower tier. I'm having to follow, so when I go into that area, so if I go into a different area with a different tier system imposed, I then have to follow that tier's rules compared to the tier rules where I'm living. Pretty self-explanatory. Just when you are travelling, make sure what areas you are in and what tiers they are in, basically. Last one. For international travel, see the Foreign Commonwealth and Development offers travel advice for your destination and travel corridors list. So obviously if you're going somewhere, if you're planning on travel, go there. Go on the government website and have a look. So that is tier 1. So just for a quick cap on tier 1, rule is 6. Businesses and venues can remain open as long as they stay in a secure manner. Hospitality businesses must do table service, be closed between 11 PM and 5 AM, and stop taking orders after 10. After 10 PM, takeaways and selling food and drink can do delivery service, click and collect or drive-through. What should we say? Senior cinemas, theatres, all that sort of thing have to be closed by 11, unless you can stay after 10 as long as it started before 10. Because public attendance indoor and outdoor, 50% capacity. Public attendance at spectator sport, 50% capacity. Worship, places of worship, rule 6. 15 people at a funeral, at a wedding, 30 people at a funeral. Sports and physical activities can still take place. Again, can still take place unless they are exempt, so schools or whatever, otherwise rule of 6 has to be followed. When you are travelling from one area to another, follow the tier system for that area. And obviously if you are travelling, go to the government website. That's basically tier 1 summed up. So, tier 2, high alert. So, okay, so obviously this is the next one up from tier 1. It says, This is for areas with higher or rapidly rising level of infections where some additional restrictions need to be in place. Okay, so a few more restrictions than Tier 1. In Tier 2, you must not socialise with anyone you do not live with or who is not in your support bubble or in any indoor setting, whether at home or in a public place. So obviously the support bubble is one household with one other person from a different household, whether that be vulnerable or whatever, and then you cannot go anywhere with anyone else. You have to stay with them. Obviously you can go on your own, but if you're planning to go out with others, it has to be in that support bubble. Pretty self-explanatory. I do apologise, whatever I seem to have drunk seems to be not coping with me very well. I do apologise, viewers. Next one. You must not socialise in a group more than 6 people outside, including a garden or public space. This is called Rule 6. So again, this is the Rule 6 being applied outside. Businesses and venues can continue to operate in a COVID secure manner other than those which remain closed by law, such as nightclubs. So again, this is pubs, restaurants and that sort of thing, other than nightclubs, which obviously they have to stay in within the hours of opening. Next one. Pubs and bars must close unless operating as restaurants. Hospitality venues can only serve alcohol with substantial meals. So substantial meals, obviously not a bag of crisps or a sandwich. Obviously it would have to be like a proper restaurant. So I actually like to go to a local bar, which means I can't go there at a minute, because it means if we are in Tier 2, that bar will have to remain closed because it doesn't even sell as little things as crisps. So bummer. But there is, I suppose, there's nothing actually stopping you from ordering, say, a meal and 50, or 50 is probably a bit excessive, or 30 pints of bitter. I can't see anything about that, but I can easily see that being a thing. So, again, hospitality businesses selling food or drink for compulsory on their premises are required to, again, table services only in premises which sell alcohol. What's that? Sell alcohol. Okay, that's interesting. But again, table service only, which is actually intriguing. They put that there because just above they. Anyway, moving on. Oh, I see what it is. Yeah. So again, table service only, basically. Again, must be closed between 11 PM and 5 AM, and must stop taking orders after 10. So again, what we've already discussed. So hospitality businesses and venues selling food and drink for compulsory off the premises can continue to do so after 10, as long as this is delivery service, click, collect or drive through. Again, what we discussed earlier. And again, this next one is also same as earlier. Early closure, 11 PM, applies to casinos, cinemas, theatres, museums, bowling alleys, amusement arcades, fun fairs, theme parks, adventure parks and activities, and bingo halls. Cinemas, theatres and concert halls can stay open beyond 11 PM in order to conclude performances that started before 10 PM. Again, something which we've already covered in Tier 1. Public attendance at outdoor and indoor events, in brackets, performances and shows, is permitted, limited to whichever is lower, 50% capacity, or either 2,000 people outdoors or 1,000 people indoors. Again, something which we've already spoken about with Tier 1. Public attendance at spectator sport and business events can resume inside and outside, subject to social contact rules, and limited to whichever is lower, 50% capacity, or either 2,000 people or 1,000 people indoors. Again, something which we already spoke about. Places of worship remain open, but you must not socialise with people from outside your household or support bubble while you are indoors there unless the legal exemptions. So obviously the difference is here with the places of worship, it's no longer the rule of 6, you are now having to use the support bubble. Pretty self-explanatory. Weddings and funerals can go ahead with restrictions on a number of attendees. 15 people can attend wedding ceremonies and receptions, 30 people can attend funeral ceremonies, and 15 people can attend linked commentarium events such as wakes or stone settings. Again, something which we already covered in Tier 1. Organised outdoor sports and physical activity and exercise classes can continue. Obviously, again, something which we already covered in Tier 1. Organised indoor sport, physical activity and exercise classes will only be permitted if it is possible for people to avoid mixing with people they do not live with or in a shared bubble with. There are exceptions for indoor disability sport, for educational purposes, and supervised sport and physical activity for under 18s, which can take place with larger groups mixing. So again, the rule of 6 has gone out the window and you are now relying to your sport bubble unless you come under the exemptions. Pretty self-explanatory. You can continue to travel through to venues or amenities which are open, but should aim to reduce the number of journeys you make where possible. So again, basically travel when necessary. If you live in a Tier 2 area, you must continue to follow Tier 2 rules when you are travel to a Tier 1 area. Avoid travel to overnight stays in a Tier 3 area other than when necessary, such as work, education, or youth services, to receive medical treatment, or because of care responsibility. You can travel through a Tier 3 area as part of a longer journey. So, so the difference is, of course, if you travel from a Tier 2 area to a lower tier, you must still follow that Tier 2. So obviously the only exception from the Tier 1 is obviously you have to still follow by the Tier 2 because you've come from a Tier 2, pretty self-explanatory. And again, if you're looking at travel, then you need to go to the government website. So basically the rule of 6 goes out the window and you are on support bubbles, or you are, if you travel from a Tier 2 to somewhat to lower than a Tier 2, you must follow those Tier 2 restrictions. That is Tier 2 summed up from Tier 1. So the next tier, Tier 3, very high alert. It says this is for areas with a very high or very rapidly rising level of infections where tighter restrictions are in place. Again, tighter than Tier 1 and 2 put together, I presume. So here we go. In Tier 3, you must not meet socially indoors or in most outdoor places with anyone you do not live with or who is not in your support bubble. This includes any private garden or most outdoor venues. So again, you can only go with basically anywhere as long as you're in your support bubble, nothing else. The next one. You must not socialise in groups more than 6 other than outdoor public spaces, including parks, beaches, countryside accessible to the public, a public garden, grounds or heritage site or castle or sports facility. This is called the rule of 6. So again, the rule of 6 is involved for all outdoor places basically. Hospitality settings such as bars, in brackets including sushi, including venues, pubs, cafes and restaurants are closed. They are not permitted to continue sales, takeaways, They are not permitted to continue sales by takeaway, click and collect or drive. So, okay. Wow. So in Tier 3, all hospitality sectors close, even takeaways. So that should be interesting to see how that goes on anyway. Oh, no, I do apologise. They are to close altogether, and they are only allowed to do takeaway, click and collect, or drive-through or delivery services. Fair enough. Accommodations such as hotels, B&Bs, campsites and guest houses must close. There are several exemptions, such as for those who these venues remain their main residence, or those requiring the venue where it is responsible necessary for work, education and training. So obviously it's pretty self-explanatory. All venues such as hotels, B&Bs, campsites, guest houses must close unless that is where you are your main residence, or unless that you are staying there for work, educational, or training purposes, where you cannot stay anywhere else. Pretty self-explanatory. Indoor entertainment and tourist venues must close. This includes indoor play centres and areas including trampolines, parks and soft play, casinos, bingo halls, bowling alleys, skating rinks, amusement arcades and adult gaming centres, laser quest and escape rooms, cinemas, theatres, concert halls and snooker halls. So they must all close basically with immediate effect. All indoor entertainment and tourist venues must close. Pretty self-explanatory. Next one. Indoor attractions at mostly outdoor entertainment venues must also close. Indoor shops, throughways and public toilets such as attractions can remain open. Sorry, that bit was in brackets. This includes indoor attractions within zoos, safari parks and wildlife reserves, aquariums, visitor attractions at farms and other animal attractions, model villages, museums, galleries and sculpture parks, gardens, biomes and greenhouses, theme parks, circuses, fairgrounds and fun fairs, visitor attractions at film studios, heritage sites such as castles and stately homes, and landmarks including observation decks and viewing platforms. So unless it is an indoor shop, throughway or public toilets, they must close. It's interesting that they keep on mentioning the word CASO, considering the first lockdown that Dominic Cummings, the previous advisor now to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister for Great Britain and Northern Ireland, actually decided that he would test his eyesight by driving to Bernard Castle. Now, unfortunately, the only times people would probably drive like that is probably when they did the COVID test. But anyway, that's me rambling on, having to go to government as I like to do. Leisure and sport facilities may continue to stay open, but group exercise classes, including fitness and dance, should not go ahead. Saunas and steam rooms should close. So again, these must close. Leisure and sport facilities may continue open, but group exercise classes and saunas must all remain closed. I do apologise, that's not COVID, that's just me having a little cough. There should be no public attendance at spectator sport or indoor performances. Large business events should not be taking place. Elite sports events may continue to take place without spectators. Okay, so all spectator sports, you're not allowed to go, basically. Pretty self-explanatory. Oh, wrong button. Large outdoor events, in brackets performances and shows, should not take place with the exception of drive-in. So again, no outdoor events to take place unless you can drive in. A bit like, drive-in events would be a bit like what Joe Biden was doing in America when he was doing his rallies, if you get that. Places of worship remain open, but you must not attend with or socialise with anyone outside your household or sport bubble while you're in there, unless legal exemption. So again, sport bubble unless you're exempt, basically. Weddings and funerals can go ahead with restrictions on a number of attendees. 15 people can attend a wedding ceremony. 15 weddings receptions are not allowed. So that's the slightly difference. 30 people can attend funeral ceremonies, 15 people can attend linked commemorative events. So obviously the only difference there is wedding receptions are not allowed. Next one, organised outdoor sport and physical activity and exercise classes can continue. However, higher risk contact activity should not take place. So obviously if it's high risk, if there's a lot of touching take place, I suppose, like tag I suppose is probably a prime example, should not take place. So I suspect something like cricket would be fine because you're all fairly apart. That's just my take on it. Organised indoor sport, physical activity and exercise classes cannot take place indoors. There are exemptions for indoor disability sport for those for educational purposes and supervised sport and physical activity under 18s. So again, all indoor sport is basically cancelled unless it's for educational purposes or you're under 18 activities. So I do apologise, it's not cold, I just obviously need to blow my nose after this. Don't worry, I haven't got COVID. You can continue to travel to venues or which are open, but you should aim to reduce the number of journeys you make where possible. So obviously travel where necessary. Next one, avoid travelling to other parts of the UK, including for overnight stays other than where necessary, such as work, educational, youth services, to receive medical treatment or because of care and responsibilities. You can travel through other areas, longer journeys. So again, just only travel out of tier 3 for those exceptions, not other reasons. And again, if you are planning to travel anywhere, go to the government website. So basically tier 3 compared to tier 2, more things shut and less activities. That's my intake. And last but not least, the exemptions from all gathering limits in all tiers. So here are the exemptions from all tiers. Point 1. First one, as part of a single household or support bubble, for work or providing voluntary or charity services in or other people's homes. For childcare, education or training, meaning education and training provided as part of a formal curriculum. For supervised activities provided for children, including wraparound care in brackets before and after school childcare groups and activities for under 18s and children's playgrounds. For formal sport groups and parent-child groups up to 15 people aged 5 and older, to allow contact between birth parents and children in care, as well as between siblings in care. For arrangements where children do not live in the same household as both their parents or guardians. For prospective adopting parents to meet children or children who may be placed with them. For birth parents to attend a funeral with no more than 30 people present, or a commemorative event such as a wake with someone who has died with no more than 15 people present. To see someone who is terminally ill or ends a life. To attend a wedding, to attend a wedding or civic partnership with no more than 15 people present. To provide emergency assistance. To avoid injury or illness or to escape risk of harm. To fulfill a legal obligation such as attending court or jury service. To provide care or assistance to someone vulnerable or provide represent for a carer. To facilitate moving home. This was all published on the 23rd of November 2020. So those are the exemptions. What I will do, of course, is I will put the link to this page that I've been reading off in the description. And if there is any more news on this, I will make another video. But if you haven't, in fact, enjoyed the video, please do make sure to smash that like button. And also, if you would like to see more content like this, then please do subscribe and hit that notification icon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.